It's Tuesday, June 9th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Barbados is in line for a lifeline of US $90 million from the International Monetary Fund as it seeks to cope with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The IMF on Monday reported that while the country continued to make good progress in implementing its Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, there were some major challenges owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. The US $90 million, according to the IMF, is anticipated to help authorities accommodate the external COVID-19 related shock with a lower primary surplus. The proposed payment comes on the heels of the third review of the BERT program and disbursement of US $139 million under that program. CARICOM Ambassador David Commichon reacts to an attack on a chartered bus which was transporting Cuban nurses, resulting in 2 of those nurses being injured. Police are now probing the circumstances surrounding the incident, which took place on Saturday night. The ambassador tells Barbados Today he believes the act was a calculated one, as such a scenario was foreign to Barbados's culture.
I'm very, very suspicious of who is behind this, and more importantly, what is behind this, and what negative propaganda effect they intended this incident to have. And it is not fair to Barbados. It does a disservice to Barbados, and whoever did it, or whoever set up that person to do it, is definitely not a friend of the Barbadian nation.
However, the ambassador disclosed that the injuries sustained were not serious, and from his interaction with relevant Cuban authorities, the nurses are unfazed about what occurred. The People's Party for Democracy and Development has described the Barbados Optional Savings Scheme as a Ponzi or pyramid scheme. Speaking during a Zoom press conference yesterday about the initiative, the party's spokesperson on tourism and the economy, Scott Weatherhead, charged that government was simply adding to its debt to pay its bills.
So tell me, we would like to know, how is government going to meet payments of bonds to public workers worth over $100 million beginning in July 2024 for 18 months, and also make payments of over $145 million a year to creditors starting in April 2025. Now, these 2 sets of payments will in fact overlap in the first quarter of 2025. Now, if government finances are not sufficient to cover payments to both the creditors and the workers whom they now want to issue bonds to, which one of those do you think will get paid? And which one will get restructured or deferred? Say that we question whether this BOSS scheme is really some kind of Ponzi scheme or pyramid scheme. In banking, they call this kiting. Government knows it has to meet debt payments of almost $85.5 million to creditors this year on bonds it just issued to them. So now they're issuing another set of bonds to public workers in order to potentially finance the first set of bonds that they have to start.
Weatherhead said instead of having the bonds in the BOSS program mature in 2024 after the next general election, government should start repaying them before 2023 when the next poll is constitutionally due.
So we challenge government to reduce the repayment time for these bonds they propose to issue public workers in order to ensure that repayment begins within this current term of government as a sign of trust to the public workers in this country. Now, if there is no insidious or political motive behind this 4-year date, then make it happen within this term of government. And that will show the workers of this country that they can trust you, because government will not risk defaulting on repayment to public workers right before an election. But they could very much do it right after an election, as they have recently done. Now, that will also give them some breathing room before the repayment of the foreign creditors' bonds begins in April 2023, and it will also prevent overlapping of payment of both sets of bonds in early 2025.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley should speak out against the injustice facing black people in the United States. So says Pan-Africanist Dr. Derek Murray, who also believes that last Saturday's Black Lives Matter protest, organized by the Caribbean Movement for Peace and Integration, was undermined even before it began. In an interview with Barbados Today, Dr. Murray, who is the director of the Center for Hybrid Studies and a lecturer in science, history and culture at the University of the West Indies, said, following the extrajudicial killing of African-American George Floyd by a white police officer on May 25th, government should have taken a strong stance and supported the Black Lives Matter movement.
As a country, we should have responded to what happened in the U.S. When I say as a country, either our Minister of Foreign Affairs or our Prime Minister should have spoken directly to what happened, in the same way that several international agencies, the University of the West Indies, several governments spoke out against what is seen as ongoing injustice and ongoing police brutality in the U.S. of whites against black people. So that should have been, in the first instance, that should have been the country's response. Given that the country did not respond in that way, and civil society decided to demonstrate, I think the onus should have been on government, starting with the AG, to give full support to free and open protests. Understanding, yes, that we're still following the COVID-19 protocols and so on.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, in Bermuda, an estimated 7,000 people took to the streets of Hamilton on Sunday in solidarity of the Black Lives Matter movement while demanding justice and an end to racism in the country. And Premier David Burt described the event as a powerful moment for the country. And finally, the head of the World Health Organization has urged countries to press on with efforts to contain COVID-19 as some countries continue to record cases and deaths.
More than 6 months into this pandemic, this is not the time for any country to take its foot off the pedal. This is the time for countries to continue to work hard on the basis of science, solutions, and solidarity.
The WHO head also addressed the issue of mass gatherings around the world, saying that the organization supports the global movement against racism, but he urged persons to demonstrate responsibly.
We continue to urge active surveillance to ensure the virus does not rebound, especially as mass gatherings of all kinds are starting to resume in some countries. WHO fully supports equality and the global movement against racism. We reject discrimination of all kinds. We encourage all those protesting around the world to do so safely. As much as possible, keep at least 1 meter from others. Clean your hands, cover your cough, and wear a mask if you attend a protest. We remind all people to stay home if you're sick and contact a healthcare provider.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.